Hello everyone, it's Robert with RecipeCosting.com. In this video, we're going to find our edible portion cost using our software. Make sure you've watched the food order guide video. You must set up your general food order guide before entering the vendor items. Before you can enter vendor items, you must have at least one vendor entered and one location registered to that vendor. So let's get started. We want to go to Setup, and right from Setup, we're going to Vendors, and we're going to click Add Vendor. To keep this video short, I'm going to edit one of my existing vendors, but you can easily click the Add button to add your own vendor. From this page, you can enter all the vendor details. The only required field will be the vendor name. You also must have one location tied to this vendor. The reason we tie locations to vendors is to ensure that we are properly buying from the correct vendor. You may have one location that buys from a specific vendor and all your other locations do not buy from that vendor. And when you're entering purchase orders later on in our system, you'll see this becomes extremely convenient so you don't make any mistakes. Once the location is tied to the vendor, you're ready to go. So you can click the Save button. In our case, we're just going to click the Back button. Let's go to our vendor items. To get there, you want to click Production, Vendor Items, and this will populate your first vendor and all of the items that are being purchased by this vendor. When you enter a new vendor, for example, Cisco, the software will load your entire food order guide. Now you can begin selecting only those items that you buy from this vendor. Now let's take a look how we get the edible portion yield using our software. I'm going to use honeydew melon as an example because it's a good example of an item that you're going to discard almost half of the entire item as waste and keep only the edible parts. This will dramatically change your cost once you enter it, and we'll take a look at that now. We'll start by going to our search item. I'm going to type in honey, and you'll notice that the software automatically, based on a few letters I entered, selected honeydew melon for me. Like I already mentioned, after removing the rind and the seeds, you're left with about 57% of consumable product. The unusable part of the honeydew melon will affect the cost of your recipes and menu items. To price your recipes and menu items profitably, you must enter it in the yield field, also known as the edible portion field in our software. Let's keep it simple. We're going to use an example of a 1 pound honeydew melon, roughly 16 ounces. The cost of the honeydew melon is $3. We want to know the cost per ounce. In our food order guide, we entered the portion as ounces, and it's showing within our food order guide right below unit. Starting from the left, let's enter the vendor name. I'm just going to keep it simple, honeydew. You'll enter a item number. Purchase by, we're going to select case. And right now we're just going to put in one melon, but there could be 1 or 10 or more within the total packages. Hit next, and I'm just going to put for weight 1, and right next to it from the drop down list I'm going to select pounds. I could have easily changed that to 16 ounces if I wanted to, and of course software still calculates it as 16 ounces, but we're going to use 1 pound in this case, and we're going to enter a purchase price of $3 with 100% yield. The software is showing the portion cost as 0.188 cents per ounce, or if we round it up, 19 cents. If it were 0.184, then it would be 0.18 per ounce or 18 cents. Don't worry about rounding, the software will do it for you when you enter recipe and menu item. The problem here is that it doesn't really cost us 19 cents per ounce. We need to remove the parts we will not eat or use and only enter the edible portion of the honeydew melon. In this case, we're going to enter 50% to keep the numbers easy. At 100%, the yield is 0.188. When we put 50%, and I'm sure you've guessed it already, the software will double the cost. Now, if we round up 0.375 or 38 cents, that's the same as 19 cents, but double, because that's what it's going to cost now. As a result, any recipe or menu items using honeydew melon have also increased in cost. This means we need to update our pricing to make sure we're profitable. Recipe costing software has a neat feature. When entering new prices for an item or changing the yield of an item, our software will find every recipe, sub-recipe, and menu item affected by the change and update the new cost. Start using recipe costing today and make those recipe and menu items profitable. Thanks for watching.